Hi. Quick context, I originally wanted to make a longer video about this matchup on my main channel, but it was initially scrapped because I needed a break from making death battle videos. However, the Kickstarter page gave me an excuse to salvage the script for it, and I wanted to express at least some of it since I really care a lot about this matchup. There are a lot of BlazBlue and Tails matchups I really like and would also love to see, but there were a variety of reasons that led me to pitching this one even though it's already popular. Anyways, enjoy the pitch.
Liam, you look like you're just chilling right now.
I am chilling right now.
Very nice. I'm actually really excited for this because I was especially excited to pitch it to you specifically, Liam.
Oh my goodness.
Because if I remember correctly, you graduated with a BA in English, right?
No, I graduated with a BFA in theater.
Ah, okay. Well, either way, it's relatively adjacent. And I am going into some specific English major ideas that I think you might find very interesting.
You know, I'm an actor, so there's a lot of overlap with the English majors.
Sure thing, sure thing. Alright. So anyways, I can just get started, right?
Yeah, I'm into it.
Coolio? Alright. Obviously, as I said, this pitch will be recorded and uploaded to my second YouTube channel, unless if you guys choose to decline.
Sure, record away.
Alright. First, let me set the stage here. Here we go. Ragna the Blood Edge, the Grim Reaper, and Velvet Crow, the Lord of Calamity. Two characters who lived hard lives, getting antagonized even harder by the entire world, yet they would inevitably be renowned as the greatest heroes no one would ever know. He's Liam, he's Sam, and I'm Jonathan, and it's my job to analyze their weapons, armor, and skills to explain why this should be a death battle.
Is it bad that when you started playing that theme, I didn't know what it was at first, and then only until you got to yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I was playing it through the microphone, that's probably why. Anyways,
I got it immediately.
In particular,
Yeah, I know.
Ragna didn't exactly have the best representation in his Season 2 episode, and Arxis in general, shockingly, has barely been acknowledged in a public video on Death Battle's channel since then. And I've always felt that BlazBlue is still popular enough within the fighting game community to where it'll still keep the views consistent as possible, similar to Berserk, Infamous, Prototype, Asura's Wrath, and other franchises that are not as popular as people think they might be. And also, Tales is the grandfather of the action RPG genre, and right now it's going through a project of remastering a lot of older Tales games, and depending on how well that does, I think this period will be the best time to bring it onto the show officially. Though, there are those people who are gonna say that they don't know the characters and don't care, and some are just casual about it, and that's perfectly fine. Though, for some reason, there are other people who are like, well, I don't know the characters, so that clearly means no one knows the Tales series at all. Yeah, no one knows why you can't get bitches, but you don't see me criticizing you over that. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I just thought that'd be funny.
Tales of Berseria, right? That's the right one?
Yeah, Tales of Berseria. It's on the PS4, and I believe it's also playable on PS5 too? Like, at least through, downloading it on PS Plus. And yeah, that's like one of the most popular Tales games right now. Because, a lot of people playing it, and Velvet is shockingly really popular in Versus. And I am aware that you guys have shown interest in the idea. It got a spot on the Tournament of Champions from Season 10, and it's just a relatively popular matchup, at least in the same vein as Sora versus Pit, to where it's mainly coming from a vocal minority, but it's still prevalent enough to reach you guys. Though, I have heard many people, not do a great job of explaining why this matchup works. I've heard people say that it's a fight between edgelords or angry demons or whatever, but the thing is, yeah. Ragna is the deconstruction of the anti-hero protagonist who realizes that he's supposed to be the hero. He looks edgy and Byronic and all that, but he really isn't any of those things. though Velvet is a much more blatant anti-hero who rediscovers her inner nature and becomes a hero. Not to say that Ragna has always been the most heroic person ever, because first of all, Bang and Hakumen exist, and second of all, this interpretation, while interesting, is fundamentally flawed because I feel it ignores a lot of Ragna's self-doubts and where it came from, and why he knowingly killed a lot of people, some of which were innocent early on, because he just did whatever he wanted. And similarly, Velvet's an anti-hero who later becomes heroic. She's often seen as a villain protagonist, which I feel ignores even more about her character and implies that the ending of the game never happened. Like, I don't think, last I checked, villain protagonists don't exactly sacrifice themselves to give everyone free will. And I think that, and one thing I've always admired about Death Battle is how, especially recently, they've been clearing up a lot of misconceptions about how people view characters in general, and I feel that these two really need that. And I also think there's a really strong idea for the analyses to cover in terms of their stories, because the reason why they shut themselves away from their true nature is because of not just their gruesome backstories, but also what caused them to go down the path they did. It stemmed from a feeling of failure involving a younger sibling. They spent the vast majority of their upbringings protecting Saya, Jin, and Laphicet respectively, and when they were taken away from them only to be used as a vessel for the main threat, they shut themselves off emotionally because of their self-doubts and felt they deserved a villainous path, only for that to change once they become reminded of who they truly are inside. It also helped that BlazBlue and Tales of Berseria have a lot to say on what it means to be human. Like with BlazBlue, it's how Ragna reacts to the moral complexities of the rest of the cast, while still having complicated feelings of his own past. And with Tales of Berseria, it's sort of the opposite, where Velvet's the one who has the complex emotions, and it's the other characters who are reacting to it. Though they still have complicated feelings of their own that Velvet reacts to as well. And this leads into where the contrast can start to take shape in interesting ways, albeit not quite working as a contrast matchup, but just some intriguing contests that have plenty to work with. Like another key theme of Berseria is a critique of utilitarianism, where Artorias wants to rid the world of emotion because he feels it's the best choice for the people in general. Meanwhile, Velvet set off on a revenge quest because he shows no care for how he affects the individual person. And Ragna, at the end of Central Fiction, offers to cease his existence because he believes it's the best way to save everyone. Like, everyone. And Velvet believes that some people don't deserve to be saved, so I feel that this would set up a clash in ideologies that feel natural for both games. As for what could be included in Ragna's analysis, he has the Azure Grimoire, in which he's told to never think of the Azure as his own. This can be worked in the analysis by going over its strengths, its drawbacks, how Ragna uses it in battle, and why he used to be over-reliant on it. This already gives a natural balance between verses and story, especially when you factor in how the Black Beast is within him and how hard he has to prevent it. You could also name drop Noel as a character and sees as the Saya he remembers, which is especially important for when you mention his feelings of self-doubt and failure to protect his younger siblings. Then it transitions into her feat of weaponizing, Hades Izanami's feat of weaponizing the Corpus Requiem, demonstrating what Saya became, how Ragna overcame that, then finish off the how he overpowered Terami and used the true Azure Flame to create a new timeline and ceasing his existence to save everyone. Lots to naturally weave into verses. Though, I am aware that you guys have been pretty, kind of intimidated by BlazBlue lore, which is fine, though I don't think you might have as much trouble as you'd expect. First of all, it's only 4 games, so, and you guys have had to research, centuries worth of comics before, so, and second of all, Liam, I assure you, I mean this in the nicest way possible, you're a Dark Souls fan.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone would dispute that.
So, I think you won't have much trouble with BlazBlue. And I'd also be careful about making any jokes at its expense because of Ragna's older episode, as mentioned earlier. But if you really want to make a joke out of it, I think there's a much more fun and endearing way to go about it. And this is where we get into the cutaway gag potential, if they're going to be brought back ever.
It might be.
Okay, fair. But either way, I think that what I'm about to say should work even if they don't. Imagine Wiz is about to make one of those no one knows jokes, but then Boomstick goes, how many times has this been repeated? How many hundreds of times? And then, I'm not gonna say the whole thing because it's like a reference to a BlazBlue meme. Then he eventually says, you know what, fuck you, I'm gonna say it, BlazBlue is not confusing at all. And then Wiz goes all like, what? How could you possibly say that? And then Boomstick brings down the chart like you see right here, and that explains it to him. And it's pretty extensive. But Wiz interrupts him and says, oh, hold on, you mock my work despite not even being a real scientist, devaluing his poultry science doctorate, and then they start getting into a heated scientific debate, and then it eventually cuts to Jocelyn, who says, this is what I gotta deal with every day. Anyways, they're both wrong. What actually happened is, and then she continues on with the analysis.
Mm-hmm.
And then the joke here isn't that BlazBlue is confusing, but that BlazBlue is a lot. Like, they have multiple explanations just to justify one thing. So, I feel that this would be the most endearing way to make jokes about BlazBlue lore. Like, you know, how Madara's cutaway gag was written, with where Wiz brought up that, like, Charlie Day chart, or something like that. Or you could also have a running gag where Wiz is struggling to wrap his head around the lore, but Boomstick is able to understand it just fine.
Yeah, I think it is the kind of lore that it makes sense that Boomstick would understand it because he's drunk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think that's where I'd go with it, but yeah.
Yeah,
definitely. Plus, it would also subvert expectations, because I always feel that Wiz is book smart while Boomstick is street smart.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's how they've traditionally been written.
Nice. And in terms of Velvet's rundown, it's basically a requirement to incorporate the why do birds fly question, because it looms throughout the game and doesn't get answered until the end. So if the rundown gets framed as Wiz asking the question and Boomstick answering it by the end, it's pitch perfect. You could also frame Velvet as a character who rejects the girl next door vibe from Berseria's prologue because the world sees her as a villain, so why shouldn't she? And then this gets into her Therian physiology and claw, explaining what she's able to do as a Therian, the drawbacks of her claw, which drains her life force the longer she uses it, unless if she's able to absorb enough life force from other demons, Malachim, or humans, this adds another clever weave of story and verses, which can also lead into her aura of malevolence, then how she started harming people for no reason, then to the reveal of Laphicet as Enominat's vessel, then how he's able to warp an entire country, which leads to Velvet's second act low point, then some bigger feats from Enominat that Velvet was able to match and even surpass due to new resolution. Lots to cover. And like with Ragna's analysis, the cohesion of story and verses practically writes itself once you start breaking the character down. You could also add some subtle parallels, like how the second Laphicet was used as a means of connecting her to her past life before the Advent, or explaining why she ended up showing empathy to Arthur after he became Artorias, like how Ragna wanted to save Terami. Then we get into the animation potential, which I'm aware we don't have a lot of time left, so I'll just say that I have a fight script that I'll link in the chat later on, and but I feel that
you can share anything with Death Battle Kickstarter, that email that you've been communicating with.
All right, cool.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'll send it to the email later. And I feel that obviously an emotional ending is the way to go, where you have the winner immediately see the loser as someone more than just their monstrous title. And also the fight script has outcomes for written endings for both outcomes it has a verdict but only for one of them. That's because it's a rough summary of my opinion on who wins. Though I included both endings because I'm also aware that your research might lead you to a verdict that's different from mine, and that's okay. And I think emotional ending would work really well here because Ragna's able to absorb the memories and dreams of others, and Velvet, at least by the end of Berseria, is perceptive enough to see the good in people just as much as the bad. So this is an ending that can happen naturally. Especially if it's taking place in a populated town or city where you have bystanders witnessing a fight between the Grim Reaper and Lord of Calamity, because that's how they see them at least. And the general fight dynamic can be based around their reluctance to use their stronger power, as well as experience versus pragmatism, which is just my favorite genre of fights. And the sprite art you're looking at right now, these were made by Death Battle's lead animation director, Cruz.
Who's that?
Never heard of him. Ever.
Oh yeah, he animates for this show called Death Battle. You should definitely check him out.
Wow.
So yeah, before we do end here, who do you think wins?
Well, this is gonna be uploaded to my YouTube channel, and I don't want to risk poisoning the well.
Okay, fair enough.
And one last thing, I really hope that the Tales series doesn't become a one-off for Death Battle, because there's so many matchups that I would absolutely love to see, especially if the remaster project gives certain ones more life. With a special shout out to Tifa versus Jude, because I'd like to name drop that since I submitted it for the Tournament of Champions. That was in its Ballant Banter episode. Because like Rooster Teeth's closure happened, it kind of got swept under the rug by jokes and time restraints. I understand, but I'd be lying if I said it didn't make me feel a little sad.
I will say Tales of is like in ballot banters, we see it all the time.
Yeah.
It's clearly a lot of people like the franchise a lot. I do think Velvet Crow is probably the one we see the most of, though.
Yeah, I say Velvet generally has a solid matchup spread. Like I think that Clive is a pretty interesting opponent. I like Zero from Dragon Guard 3. I'm in the minority, but Nero from Devil May Cry is kind of a vibe. There's also Edelgard.
Lloyd Irving gets requested a bit, like classically. He's from Tales of
Yeah. I feel that Velvet and Lloyd are like the most popular picks for Tales and Versus. It's just that I'm not too keen on most of Lloyd's matchups, but I'd be happy to see him anyway.
Yeah, cool. Well, great pitching. Thank you very much. This is awesome.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Hope you're enjoying the episodes. Thanks for supporting the Kickstarter, you know?
One last thing.
Yeah.
I forgot to credit the artist in this presentation, but this sketch art I won in a raffle by someone named Drawbot360.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks a ton. Hope you have a great rest of your day, man.
Yeah, you too.
Bye.